Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast here to tell you guys about Canadips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canadips CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BELLYUP20 at CanadipsCBD.com. Once again, BELLYUP20 at CanadipsCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Canadips for being a great partner of Belly Up Sports. If you guys don't know or aren't familiar with the Bundesliga, it is a 18-team table. Their relegation zone is 18 and 17 automatically getting relegated down to the second division, with that 16th place spot going into a play-in game for who would essentially be playing in the Bundesliga the next season. So at least there's that. And then pretty similar to all the teams: 6th place Europa Conference League, 5th place Europa League, Champions League, 4th all the way to 1st. Maybe might change only depending on the UEFA coefficient. Now, am I expecting the Bundesliga to get that? Unless Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund make it to the Champions League semifinals, I don't see it happening, which it did happen once. But as of right now, it seems very favored towards the Premier League. I think as of right now, they do have the higher coefficient. So I am going through the rest of this episode with that bias, thinking that the Premier League is going to get a 5th Champions League spot versus the rest of the league, which I think is a very fair call. But, who am I?
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, hey, you know what? Why not?
Yeah. So we'll start things off with, obviously, we'll go down to the relegation. The guys are currently in that relegation zone, which in 18th place we have Mainz, my favorite team to pronounce, which unfortunately they are currently at the bottom with 7 points. They have to have had a win. They had 1 win, 4 draws, and 9 losses, with a goal differential of -13.
Which, in the grand scheme of it, is not as terrible as some of the teams above them.
Yeah, I mean, because there's teams that have actually given up more goals than Mainz.
Only one team's given up more goals than Mainz, but at least they've scored 13 to match it.
Which is the team that's above them, which is Heidenheim, with 11 points. So currently at 17th place. And then that 16th place position, also with 11 points. I believe they're up because of goal difference. Yeah, goal difference is probably the real reason why they're above them. Yeah. And that is St. Pauli, which I don't remember. No, St. Pauli came up last year, but obviously, their manager goes and takes the Brighton job. I mean, they stayed afloat for a year in the Bundesliga. They're still in play to be in the Bundesliga. They do have 11 points, so I should point at least that out. I'll say this, Kelcey. I think everybody still, besides Mainz, is still very much in play.
Yeah, I mean, you could honestly even say Mainz is still has a chance. It's an outside shot. I think their goal differential is obviously what's going to give them an opportunity. If they can get to a situation where they're fighting with a team that's in 16th with a equal or lesser goal differential, they have a chance. But yeah, Heidenheim still has every opportunity to fight its way out of there. FC St. Pauli sitting in that uncomfortable position of the last man standing / potentially first man out if you're not too careful. It's going to be an interesting run down the way. Whether Mainz can fight their way back, but Heidenheim seems to have a great opportunity to get their way out. It's just Mainz they got to get a couple lucky wins or draws, which seems mean to say in professional football. Like, yeah, you got to get a couple lucky wins, but when you got 7 points halfway through the season,
careful with that word "lucky" because apparently that offends a lot of people.
Hey, you got to be good to be lucky, is all I got to say. So
so that's all. So apparently it's a cringy word, lucky. But no, you're absolutely right. I think a lot of teams are still very much in play, and I'll probably say more towards that. You'll be nice and say Mainz. Now, if you're Mainz, at least you're not Wolves, who only has 2 points right now.
Yeah.
So at least there's that.
There's a fighting chance.
Yeah, because I mean, Wolves is definitely going to the championship. But when you look at like 17th to 8th, like there is like still like within grasp reach between all each other. And yes, I will say Mainz is still only 4 points behind Heidenheim, so that is fair. I would also point out, like on my notes. 24th place, Eintracht Frankfurt with 24 points. They're very much in. I would say, if bearing it, nothing bad happens, could actually get themselves in a better spot. Which, to be fair, man, you end up losing Ekite.
Mm-hmm.
You lose out on him. Obviously, promising French striker.
Fantastic striker.
Fantastic striker. Now at Liverpool. It's like, but who's to say if that team, especially, and you're gonna hear the theme of this episode is just, come that January transfer window, do you go out there where you're Frankfurt, where like, hey, we're not looking too bad. The teams above us, I think you can say, hey, we're not that far off from them. We can jump over these teams, and who's to say we can't get a spot at the Champions League?
Yeah, you know what? It's very clear. Like, there's a very clear line in the Bundesliga table where it's like you have a chance to fight your way into play-in positions, like in a Europa League or Conference League position, and it is Eintracht Frankfurt. Like, it's very clear that's the line. Ironically, 0 goal differential is the line.
Yeah,
but yeah, like a team like that is very interesting. Obviously, they have the second highest goal scorer. Nobody's touching Harry Kane right now, but in Jonathan Burkhart is absolutely fantastic, and also the number 2 guy in assists so far in the league. And so they have to be careful for 2 things. Like, do you go out and get somebody, but also can you fight off the bigger teams from coming and pulling your players away? Because it happens all the time. Like, how many years did we see Dortmund give away their best player to somebody else? It just happens constantly. Obviously, the big ones were always like Lewandowski at the end of the year, things like that. But in the middle of the year, it always happens to these like 7, 8, 9 teams. So even down to Freiburg, really, that you got to be careful if you are fighting for a chance. I think, and by the way, I think that's as low as I would go for fighting for a chance for getting into the 6th place spot is Freiburg. And that's just like, again, you got to get a couple lucky wins in there and a couple lucky losses for Stuttgart and everybody in front of you. But I think you just got to be careful with those teams. Like, you can't lose anybody if you're going to go for it. But at the same time, you do have to figure out maybe bringing somebody back from loan, because some of these teams have some great players on loan. Or maybe not great players, but really good young players. And they could develop in the first team football playing for a position. And I think those are important things too, is like, you can't just lose somebody in the January transfer window. If you're in that 6 through 8 spot, 9 spot in the Bundesliga, you got to be very careful.
Mm-hmm. And the reason why I highlight Eintracht Frankfurt, because you did mention the 0 goal differential that they have, because everybody else, it's straight negative from there on out.
Yeah.
Which, if anybody's trying to defend the Bundesliga, this is definitely not the best time to be defending them.
No.
But if you're Eintracht Frankfurt, I mean, you clearly can score goals. Clearly.
Yeah.
It's that defense. I think if they're able to bring in some defensive pieces that can come and solidify that back line a little bit more, help that goalkeeper out just a little bit, where you can turn out some games a little bit better, especially with the way they're scoring goals, like you mentioned. So I think that's, to me, Eintracht Frankfurt is an interesting team to keep an eye on, especially in that January transfer window. Hopefully they don't lose their goal scorer, but if they can add some defensive pieces to that team and hopefully keep their goal scorer, I think that Eintracht Frankfurt could very much get into a European competition spot by the end of the season.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, Michy Batshuayi, the Belgian striker, who's pretty much always been behind Lukaku. Yeah, he is also on that squad. But yeah, I think this team is interesting. Also, Mario Götze, who we all know for, things, are sitting on this team. But yeah, I do think getting some help in there in the defense. Obviously, you have a great midfielder in Xabi, and you got a young guy in Larson that are able to excel in the Bundesliga, but you got to get somebody to help. And they got a lot of young defenders, but they also have some old guys that are like still sticking around in the team. And it might be that time that you start talking in January and February, like maybe we get some new blood in on loan or in the transfer window that just somebody's going to fill in a spot, because there's definitely holes there that can be filled.
I mean, I'm just saying Sergio Ramos is looking for a team in Europe.
Oh. I mean, hey, if you don't mind red cards, which to be honest, Eintracht Frankfurt also leads the league in yellow cards, at least for one single player. So
hey, competition.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Eintracht Frankfurt, I will say keep a close eye on. We do have VfB Stuttgart, who I think throughout at least recently, have been getting better and better. Maybe a little bit of a dip this season, but obviously we still have another second half to go. But Stuttgart, obviously keep an eye on them in Europa Conference League spot, 25 points. In the Europa League spot, we got Hoffenheim with 26 points. And in fourth place Champions League spot, we got Bayern Leverkusen with 26 points. So that just tells you things can change.
Yeah.
Within their, Eintracht Frankfurt is within 2 points of that fourth place, that fourth and final spot for the Champions League.
Yeah. It doesn't take much. Honestly, even if you go down to Union Berlin having a chance, you're talking about 8 points between, fourth and eighth place. Like, a lot can change in 3 weeks, or really in 2 weeks in the middle of the schedule in March. Like, something happens, you're still within that 8-point gap. You get 2 wins, the opposing team loses 2. Well, now you just got to go get another win and you're on top. Like, it is crazy to see that things can flip and they end up like in the Bundesliga. This is one of the weird things about it, is that after January transfer window, that February through April, early April time frame, things get wild. And I'm not talking the top 3. At this point in time, I think the top 2, 3 are pretty comfortable up there. I don't think they're going away, barring somebody leaving. But it does feel like to get that fourth place spot, you have to have a very, very fast start after the Christmas break. Mm-hmm. You can't come off slow. It can't be draw. You have to win. It has to be early wins, and you can't just give up goals. Those are huge backbreakers. Even if you go against Bayern at this point in time, I know you're going to give up a goal. You can't give up multiple goals, though.
Yeah, I think you made a good point, because I think you have to. You don't want that return leg to be an important match, especially when you're talking about the 3 teams up top. Which I'll just go ahead and mention it. Third place Borussia Dortmund with 29 points. Second place RB Leipzig with 29 points as well, and in first place, 9 points clear from second place is Bayern Munich. Which, look, I said it, like we all said it, like it took yes, Xabi Alonso's Bayern Leverkusen team finally ended the streak for Bayern Munich, but also remember it took an undefeated Bayern Leverkusen to finally dethrone Bayern Munich, a Bayern Munich team that scored more points than they did the previous season. So, like, Bayern Munich is always going to be good, and they just got so much better, which is crazy when you lose a Jamal Musiala. But then now this new kid that's now wearing 42, because obviously Jamal's wearing now number 10.
Yeah.
But the new 42, he's looked pretty good. Definitely living up. Harry Kane, I mean, the way he's looking, it looks like Barcelona might be coming and knocking for him, which I hope not. Olise, just another stellar player that left Crystal Palace and making a name for himself over there in Bayern Munich. This Bayern Munich team, I mean, do I want to give credit to Vincent Kompany? Not really. I mean, he's a good coach. I'm not taking that away from him, but it's also Bayern Munich. So that's the only thing I want to take away from it.
Look, you put anybody in the seat of a Ferrari, they can still drive 110 miles per hour, or for, I don't know what the kilometers per hour is for all you non-Americans. Sorry. But yeah, look, I'm not going to give all the credit to Kompany, but I will say that this team has been put together well. Obviously, the Mane situation in Bayern didn't work out. They replaced him with Luis Diaz, which is a great switch, by the way. 3rd in assists in the Bundesliga. Olise, as you mentioned, number 1 in assists in the Bundesliga.
I mean,
and Harry Kane, by the way. You have Harry Kane, just 18 goals through his first half of the season with still 1 game left to play in this early, like the first half of the season. Like, that's crazy. I'll give the guy 1 trophy, and then all of a sudden, look what happens. He just doesn't stop scoring. On pace, I believe, to break the record if he continues through the rest of the season for goals in the Bundesliga. I think it is 38, 39. But yeah, and you said Leonard Carl wearing the new number 42, right? Mm-hmm. Absolutely does look very fitting in this team. This whole squad, it seems like, has figured themselves out for what they want to do. Davies, everybody else being here, Min-Jae Kim, like Jonathan Tah. It's been a great situation for Kompany to coach, for managing. But yeah, when you're already driving a Ferrari, it doesn't take much other than a fine tuning to get it to go even faster. And it feels like this team is nigh unbeatable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, Bayern Munich shouldn't be resting on their laurels, but you should point out with 2 games left in Champions League, they're currently sitting at second place on the table over there in Bayern Munich. I mean, yeah, I think obviously they're gonna still focus on the Bundesliga, make sure to win the Bundesliga DFB Pokal when that comes around. But a trophy they haven't won since COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And Harry Kane was close to winning a Champions League. Not really, but he wanted. He walked by the trophy of the Champions League. I think with the way this Bayern Munich team, this team is not only just poised to win the Bundesliga, maybe even DFB Pokal, which can always be finicky depending on who you face up on that day. But if they keep playing the way they're playing, man, I can see them also contesting for that Champions League.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no doubt in my mind, especially with the new league table set up in the Champions League. This team is so good. And by the way, I was wrong. It was 41 goals in the season, by the way, for Lewandowski. So a little off pace for Harry Kane, but he still has a chance. And it's not like you talk about a player like Harry Kane, you're not talking just a pure goal scorer. And you've seen that more in the Champions League than anything. You see him drop into a reserve 9, as false 9 in a lot of cases, playing from the midfield, playing balls out to Elise and everything, and then ending up on the end of the ball in the box. And so it's been a situation where this team runs well, and it does run through Kane. But when you talk about getting in the Champions League, it's going to take a heroic level from Harry Kane to stabilize this team at number 2. And it doesn't matter. Honestly, we saw it last year, right? Number 1 doesn't matter anything. Number 2 might not even matter as well, depending on who you go up against.
I mean, 24.
Yeah. You just got to get in at the end of the day. It's no different than when it was group stages. You just had to get to the next round. And that's the end goal. Last year we saw it's like a lull that they had, and it just killed the top teams. This year, everybody's realized what a league table looks like. And now as American fans, we've seen this exact setup before. So this is not a shock to us for teams to have a break and then come off on a lull and things like that. But for European fans, that's never anything they've experienced. So now they know it. Now the teams know it. Now squads know what to expect. And this team it's going to be tough. In the world, in all of European football, it is hard to look at any of the other top teams and say, hey, that team's way better than Bayern. There's a couple that you're going to be like, yeah, okay, they're even, or maybe close to. But Bayern just feels so solid this year outside of everything else. And again, it kind of comes to playing in a cupcake division, right? Apologies to Bundesliga fans. But in comparison to some of the other leagues right now, after your top 8, it's not great in a lot of cases. And yes, I'm saying that knowing there's a lot of Americans that play in the Bundesliga. It's something that you got to be careful of when they get in the Champions League. Maybe let's not give them too big of a head yet. Vincent Kompany's already got enough of that big head covered. But yeah, it'll be exciting to see what they can do, but I don't see them falling out of the number 2 spot in the Champions League table. Obviously, that's all pretty well set now at this point in time. But yeah, once you get through that, now you got to get through the knockouts, and that's just the most important thing for this team because they got to win it. It's been 6 years now.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. And I think to point out, kind of going towards another team, because I think you hit it right on the nail right on the coffin for Bayern Munich. Bayer Leverkusen. If you're a club that was thinking about firing their coach very early on after hiring him, this is your proof that maybe it's the best move to do, because you hire Erik ten Hag. You had some red flags happening. You lost to a youth team from Flamengo, I believe, and then as a preseason game, and then you go into a really rough start under the Ten Hag era, and they said, F it, let's just cut our ties with him, and look where they are now. They're in 4th place, and maybe some are wondering, maybe if they would have had the guy that they have on now, where this team could have probably been maybe in a better position. Obviously, this is a response after moving on from Xabi Alonso, Florian Wirtz, Frimpong. I don't think, is it Alex Frimpong?
I think Alex Frimpong, yeah.
Yeah, so Frimpong, too many players to count that you lost, but you still have a core of players. Malik Tillman is on there, which I'm excited for. But yeah, this Leverkusen team, even though they have been stripped, which I think it's just another year for Leverkusen. They're a team that definitely gets poached a lot from across the world of football. But I mean, once again, they're competing and hoping that they can maybe get that Champions League spot. But obviously, definitely a bit of a rough start to their season. So that probably could be something that they could worry about, going near the end of the season.
Yeah, you always worry about that, right? Like, when is a good time to fire a coach? Is there ever a good time to fire a coach? And you'll never know the answer until your players react. And I will say, like, there's been some question marks about players coming off of that squad. Obviously, one of them being Florian Wirtz. You talk about what he's been doing at Liverpool. It hasn't been great in the grand scheme of things. He's been blasted by Liverpool fans. So it's not like it's just a managerial situation there. It was a lot of the players as well. And you always question, like, is it a good time to get rid of them? Obviously they did, and it's worked out, but it doesn't always end up that way. It's a 50-50 coin flip, right? At the end of the day. Mm-hmm. It's a good thing it's worked out, though, because it is a team that's, they've turned themselves into, I hate using this term, but it's kind of what they are in the Bundesliga. They're a feeder team in a lot of cases, but they're a good, solid feeder team. They're not just giving players up. They're a lot like how Werder Bremen used to be in the early 2000s, where they were a really good squad, but maybe not the best in the Bundesliga, but they are still a really fun team to watch. And this is how it feels for Leverkusen, where maybe they can, fight their way to stay up in that four spot, but it's going to be a tough fight. Like, it's not just like, good luck, you got this. It's more like, yeah, sure, good luck. You got to make some moves, right? I said the same thing about 6 through 8. You got to make moves in the January transfer window. Maybe go poach a player that's playing well within the Bundesliga who's not on a top 6 team. See what you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I think if you're Borussia Dortmund, you definitely want to boost up that attack, because I think that's really what's kind of hurting them right now. Defensively, great, amazing, solid. But yeah, maybe you go to Eintracht Frankfurt and poach their guy. I mean, like, this is, Borussia Dortmund needs to definitely take a big step. RB Leipzig, really good on the attack. I mean, it's hard to say, like, good on the attack when you have Bayern Munich with 51 goals already.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you had to pick a team, these teams need to strengthen up, because if you want to go into that second half of the season and somehow find a way to cut into that 9-point deficit that you have with Bayern Munich, because I'll be honest with you, Bayern Munich is going to have a slip-up. Not a big one, but they'll have a slip-up enough where you can probably say, hey, our return fixture against you could be a really big one if we're able to capitalize on it. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's Bayern Munich. They're inevitable. I will also point out, Borussia Mönchengladbach, kind of a similar situation to Bayern Leverkusen. Not really, but they were struggling to get a victory for a good chunk of the early on in the season. Obviously, you have Gio Reyna, Joe Scally. A lot of people were kind of, I guess, justifying why Joe Scally wasn't getting called up, because he was part of a team that can't even get a win. At least playing, even though he is playing regularly, they're not winning. I mean, that's the last thing you want, is a defensive player that can't win you games. And then Gio Reyna, it seems like another day, different team, same situation where he's available, but he doesn't play. But you put that USA jersey on him, and all of a sudden he's phenomenal. In some sense, he is our own James Rodriguez, but not saying that he is James Rodriguez. I'm saying in retrospect, obviously no one's James Rodriguez, at least for Colombia.
It does. Mönchengladbach is always an interesting story, because you always wonder what it's going to take to get a team going. And you don't ever really know what the catalyst is going to be. It's kind of like we just talked about with Leverkusen. You don't know what the catalyst is going to look like, and it's turned out well so far for them. They still have it's again, this is an outside shot to get into a Conference League play-in situation, but you do have a very outside shot to fight there. But you also just have as equally of bad chances of crashing out with the way they've been playing. So, they 3-0'd Heidenheim this last Thanksgiving weekend, so that was a huge win. But it's not been like you lose to St. Pauli in the Pokal, you win 1-0 to Mainz, barely sneaking by. You lose to Wolfsburg in your last match. You got Dortmund coming up. Like, it's not a great situation for them trying to stay up. But they're in that middle of the table that you just question it. But yeah, when you're talking to American players on the team like Joe Scally and Gio, it's tough to say they deserve the time in the U.S. camp when the players in front of them are winning. Willie Tillman being one of those players in front of Gio in this case. And then Joe Scally, there's players you needed to figure out, like Alex Freeman in the American squad that was playing regularly and playing well. That's why he got the nod over Joe Scally. I don't know. I question whether he'll be there in the final Collins, but I feel like he'll be in the final camp before they make the decisions for sure. Both guys will. It just feels like too much talent not to. But yeah, there's always a question mark. And it also depends on, hey, where does Mönchengladbach end up at the end of the season, right? But yeah, they're in a weird spot where they can go one way or the other. -4 goal differential. You got a lot of upside to that. You also have a lot of downside to that. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But I mean, right now, in like you mentioned, like scoring, I think obviously Harry Kane, I think, is the front runner when it comes to goal scoring.
Mm-hmm.
Believe, yeah, Harry Kane, 18 goals. Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And then on the assist count, I mean, yeah, Michael Olise. I mean, you already mentioned it. I will say, it does, if you're an Eintracht Frankfurt fan, to see like at least like two players. Well, actually, technically, if you want to point out Duan as well. So you got some players in leading statistics, especially with goals and assists. Just fix that defense. That's all you. Yeah.
Just get your defense fixed at this point in time. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I will say Eintracht Frankfurt. I think that's my team that I'm gonna be like, this team could jump up if they can get something helpful in that January transfer window. Also, don't lose your guys. What is it? Burkhardt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't lose him, and I think you'll be fine. But if you're Borussia Dortmund, go get Burkhardt.
yeah. Go get some goal scorers. Go get Schiabi and Burkhardt at the same time. Just get a goal scorer and assist. You'll be fine. Yeah, I'm with you. I think Eintracht is kind of the team to watch for jumping. But just to be different, I'm just going to say that it could possibly be Freiburg. I do think Freiburg has a chance. Sitting at a -2 goal differential at 9th place and 17 points, it doesn't take much to jump those 8-point difference. We just talked about that. And maybe even to get higher than that, it's not much further to go another 3 points after you make the 8 points. Like you just got to get to 12 and you're fine. So it's 4 games. It's the biggest difference there. But a team like Freiburg is always a sneaky good team. When you're playing well, you also have a lot of draws. You have 4 wins. You haven't lost a lot around compared to teams around you. So you have that chance to really climb. And their losses, 2 of the losses came in the last 3 games. So, they have every chance to climb, just to be a little different than saying Frankfurt again. But yeah, I agree with you, everything you said about Frankfurt. But then you had Freiburg, and there's a chance. It's an outside shot, but hey, we like long shots here.
I will also add for the January transfer window, and I'll use Borussia Dortmund just because I would love to see them maybe contest with Bayern Munich. I don't know if that's going to happen, at least the way that things going right now. Anything can happen. Anything's possible. But if you're Borussia Dortmund, honestly, if you're any team that's in need of attacking help, call Atletico Madrid. Go get Sorloth.
Yes.
That dude is just on the bench for no apparent reason. That guy is a set piece threat. I think that this guy, if you're Borussia Dortmund, especially with the wing play that they have, go get Sorloth. Yeah. Go bring Sorloth to Borussia Dortmund. I think that's going to be my pick for maybe if you're going to try to grab somebody in January. I think it should be Sorloth.
Yeah, he's such a good player. If anybody who's played FIFA and you play Ultimate Team, you know the dreaded moment where your opponent brings on Alexander Sorloth in the 75th minute and he's all super subbing on you because they treat him like they treat Haaland. And then you watch him play on the field and you're like, wow, this guy is actually surprisingly good. And if it wasn't for Erling Haaland, he probably has a much more noticeable career with the Norwegian national team. He is a very impressive player to be sitting on the bench, but I also understand why teams don't use him often, because he is a true number 9, the likes we don't see anymore. He is very much a put the ball to his feet, let him hold up play, get around him type of player. And that doesn't always work for every squad. It didn't work for Man United when he was there. And honestly, it doesn't really work for Atletico at this point in time. But he's not bad when they bring him on. Like, he's honestly impressive every single time they bring him on. And it's like, all right, well, here we go.
Yeah, and I think Sorloth is a good one to mention just because of his current situation with Atletico Madrid. And I think he'd be a great Bundesliga addition. I think he'd be very fitting to the Bundesliga, especially the way you can score goals.
I mean, that's where he made his name, was with Leipzig.
Mm-hmm. So I think if you're Dortmund, go after it. And I mean, if you're Leipzig, a little reunion wouldn't hurt either. If you're Frankfurt, you need to go get defensive players. But yeah, anything else you want to add about the Bundesliga before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, it is what we expected, right? At the end of the day, you expected Bayern to be at top. I think the biggest question is always going to be Dortmund. Where can they finish at the end of the day? And let's not forget, Hoffenheim still sneaks their way up there every year into the top six. It's like talk about inevitable. They're just inevitably in the top six every year.
They're always the team that beats Bayern Munich.
Yeah, you know what? It's going to be Hoffenheim, or it's going to be like they're going to lose to like Union Berlin or something. It's always their like Achilles heel, is the team that's fighting for whatever reason they're fighting. It's useless most times in the grand scheme of it. And Bayern just slips up. And it's usually March. They always will slip up for a week where it's like they lose one on Sunday, lose one midweek, and they draw the last one on the next Sunday. And you're like, what are we doing here?
And then they win the Bundesliga in April.
Yeah. And then they go rattle off 4 more wins and win everything.
Who is that guy?